1. Introduction. The link between politics and Freemasonry. Freemasonry has long been one of history's most mysterious fraternities, often shrouded in symbols, rituals, and secrecy. Politicians throughout the ages have been drawn to it, not just for networking, but also for its promise of moral philosophy and influence. To the outside world, it has always been more than just a club. The sight of compasses, square tools, and the all-seeing eye have raised countless eyebrows. For some, Freemasonry is simply a society built on Enlightenment values, while for others, it represents a shadowy power pulling strings behind the scenes. The fact that so many world leaders, revolutionaries, and presidents were Freemasons makes the connection hard to ignore. Were they simply members for tradition's sake, or was something deeper happening? The line between history and conspiracy blurs quickly here. When politics meets Freemasonry, history feels less like fact and more like a mystery waiting to be solved. 2. Founding Fathers of America and Freemasonry. The United States owes much of its foundation to men who were not only visionaries but also Freemasons. George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, and James Monroe are among the most famous names tied to the craft. Masonic ideals of liberty, fraternity, and equality deeply influenced the nation's founding documents. The symbolism is everywhere: the unfinished pyramid and the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill, the careful planning of Washington, D.C.'s architecture, and even the cornerstone rituals for federal buildings. Conspiracy theorists argue that America was deliberately built as a Masonic experiment, a new Atlantis designed to reshape global order. While historians point to Enlightenment ideals as the real inspiration, the sheer number of Freemason founders adds weight to the theories. Were they laying the foundation of democracy or the blueprint for hidden control? Was America built on freedom, or was it built on the secret handshake of Freemasonry? 3. Abraham Lincoln and Masonic influence. Interestingly, Abraham Lincoln himself was not a Freemason, but many of his closest advisors and allies were. Masonic lodges openly supported his presidency, praising his values of unity and justice. Lincoln even applied for membership but was assassinated before he could be initiated. This small fact has fueled endless speculation. Some argue that his assassination was connected to secret societies, with John Wilkes Booth allegedly influenced by powerful networks. Historians, however, stressed that Booth acted independently as a Confederate sympathizer. Yet, the overlap of Masons in Lincoln's circle continues to spark suspicion. Was Lincoln a friend to the Masonic order, or did his absence as a member make him a threat to hidden powers? If Lincoln had lived to join the lodge, would American history have taken a different turn? 4. Winston Churchill and the British connection. Winston Churchill, one of the most iconic leaders of the 20th century, was a documented Freemason. Initiated in the early 1900s, Churchill valued the fraternity for its traditions of brotherhood and loyalty. During World War II, he embodied the resilience of Britain, but some claim his strategies and alliances were influenced by Masonic loyalties. Was it coincidence that many wartime leaders also had ties to Masonry, or was there a larger, hidden network shaping the global outcome? For some, Churchill's role as both statesman and Mason symbolizes the fraternity's direct influence on history's biggest conflicts. Critics, though, argue that his Masonic involvement was ceremonial at best. Did Churchill win the war with military genius or with the quiet power of the lodge behind him? 5. Modern U.S. presidents and Freemasonry. Moving into the modern era, several U.S. presidents openly embraced Freemasonry. Harry Truman, for example, wasn't just a Mason, he was a Grand Master. He led the fraternity with pride while also making some of the most consequential decisions in history, including the use of the atomic bomb. Gerald Ford and Lyndon B. Johnson were also associated with Masonic circles. For conspiracy theorists, these links prove that presidents were never truly independent leaders but guided by secret Masonic principles. For historians, however, Masonic ties were more cultural, reflecting American society at the time. But when Truman dropped the bomb, some whispered it wasn't just strategy, it was the hidden hand of Freemasonry steering global destiny. When presidents wear aprons instead of suits, are they serving the people or the lodge? 6. European leaders in Freemasonry. Across Europe, many political giants carried the Masonic torch. Italian revolutionary Giuseppe Garibaldi was a Mason, celebrated as both a freedom fighter and a Grand Master. In France, Masons shaped the values of liberty and secularism that fueled revolutions. Britain had countless politicians in the fraternity, weaving Masonry into the heart of its empire. For conspiracy theorists, Europe's revolutions weren't spontaneous but carefully guided by lodges pushing for a new world order. For historians, Masonry simply reflected the Enlightenment spirit of the age. Regardless, the overlap between revolutions and Masonic members is undeniable. Did these leaders act for their nations or for their brethren in secrecy? Were Europe's revolutions born in the streets or in the hidden chambers of Masonic lodges? 7. Famous non-Western politicians who were Masons. Freemasonry's influence was not limited to the West. Known as the liberator of Latin America, was a proud Mason. De San of Argentina also carried the fraternity's values into the independence struggle. Their lodges served as meeting points for revolutionaries plotting freedom from colonial powers. For conspiracy theorists, this suggests Masonry was less about philosophy and more about engineering political upheaval worldwide. For historians, the fraternity simply gave leaders a platform to organize and inspire. Either way, the reach of Masonry in Latin America shows how deeply politics and the craft became intertwined, shaping entire nations. Were these liberators fighting for freedom or for a global Masonic dream? 8. Freemasonry in the 20th century. Global politics. The 20th century saw Freemasonry's fingerprints on major global institutions. Many of the early architects of the United Nations were Masons, drawing on ideals of universal brotherhood. Masonic influence is also suspected in global banking, diplomacy, and even the creation of the European Union. Conspiracy theorists point to these links as proof that Masonry is the backbone of globalization, secretly guiding humanity toward a single order. Skeptics argue that this is an exaggeration, as many non-Masons contributed equally to these institutions. Still, the recurring presence of Masons in pivotal global roles raises a haunting question. Is Freemasonry just a fraternity, or the skeleton key to world politics? If the world is a stage, are Freemasons the hidden directors writing the script? 9. Conspiracy theories versus documented history. The biggest challenge in studying Freemasonry and politics is separating fact from fiction. Membership records confirm many leaders were Masons, but conspiracy theories often push further, linking them to every war, assassination, or policy. The Illuminati and Freemasons are frequently conflated, creating myths of secret control. In truth, some politicians joined out of tradition, others for networking, and some for genuine belief in its values. The power of secrecy, however, makes Freemasonry an easy target for theories. People fear what they can't see, and a hidden fraternity with global members is the perfect canvas for speculation. Is Freemasonry the puppet master of history or just the perfect scapegoat for our fears? 10. Conclusion: power, secrecy, and influence. At the crossroads of history and conspiracy, Freemasonry continues to fascinate and divide opinion. Politicians who wore its symbols were leaders of nations, builders of revolutions, and sometimes architects of world peace or war. The real question is whether their Masonic membership shaped these events, or whether it was simply another part of their personal journey. Perhaps Freemasonry's greatest power is not in controlling politics, but in making us believe it might. Secrecy breeds suspicion, and suspicion creates legends that never die. In the end, maybe the true secret of Freemasonry is not what it hides, but what we choose to believe about it.